Here's Mao at his iconic moment. He's proclaiming the victory of the communists in the Chinese Civil War. China had been a broken state basically since 1911 when the last dynasty had fallen and the country had broken out into a multilateral civil war that he eventually wins. And I'm going to be talking tonight about Mao's theories from the 1920s and 30s when he had the time to write. But there's a lot more to Mao than just that. He had quite a track record. Once he won the Civil War, he imposed a social revolution. What's that? It's more than a political revolution. You're not just replacing the government. You're going to wipe out entire social classes. And I don't mean then, hey, here's your one-way ticket out of here kind of way. No, social revolution is here's a mass grave, dig it, and then you're in it kind of way.
I really like how she pointed out the sophistry in their wording. And this is something that I think a lot of amateur China watchers always get confused about. The word social revolution, it sounds really benign, right? The Chinese Communist Party is relabeling so it sounds better than what it really is. Look at how they reworded the possible invasion of Taiwan. They call it national unification. And here, again, they call it social revolution. For people, who didn't know what it really is, oh, social revolution, that sounds cool, that sounds okay. But you don't really know what really happened.
If you look at these statistics of Chinese deaths in many of their wars, this is from much of the Maoist period, I think it's 45 to 75, what you'll notice, the figures in white, I believe, are civilian deaths, not military deaths, and it gets really quite ugly. There are more Chinese civilian deaths here than all deaths in World War II. And then for those of you who think the Chinese are all great long-term strategists, you need to ponder these numbers. How is it possible to kill so many of your own? That's generally not a mark of good strategy. Moreover, most of them died during the Great Famine, which was the only nationwide famine in Chinese history. Why? Because it's not caused by the weather. It's caused by policies set in Beijing. During the Great Leap Forward, Mao put all the peasants on communes. That meant the party was in control of the food supply, i.e. who lives and who dies. You don't get a meal, you're very dead. In addition, he decentralized industry, and you can see these backyard furnaces pictured here. As a result of this, production collapses, agriculture and industrial, but Mao keeps exporting food. Why? Because that's his pocket change. That is a major source of government income if he wants to be able to do anything. So they keep exporting food. As a result, 40 million Chinese starve to death, primarily in rural areas and disproportionately peasant girls, the least valued members of society.
Here is a great example of how CCP manipulates the truth of the past. In our textbook, it did mention the Great Famine, but the cause of it, according to the CCP, is partly due to natural reasons. It's because of the weather at the time, and the only thing that the leadership did wrong was not respond to it very well. You see how this manipulation works. Acknowledging that it happened, but distorted so people don't question it. The most convincing lies are never entirely fake. It's a mixture of truth and distortion. It really does work, especially if you have an internet firewall.
Yet, many Chinese revere him as a national hero. Why? Because in their minds, certainly of the Han, the preponderant group in China, one of the key things that their country should and must be is a great power. And Mao, by reunifying China under the banner of communism and then fighting the coalition of all the major capitalist powers to a stalemate in the Korean War, or in their mind, a victory, that constitutes ending what they consider the era of humiliations that started in the mid-19th centuries and end with the communist revolution. So he's a hero at home.
How can he not be? Growing up, there were statues everywhere you go. There's TV shows playing on the background nonstop. There's government-funded propaganda praising how great of a leader he was. His body is at Tiananmen Square. But we were never told about the mistakes he made, the people that he killed, the sociopathic behaviors he showcased. We were never told that. I doubt if you sit Chinese people down and tell them he did this and that, and he's responsible for millions of lives, that people would revere him as much as they do now.
One could claim that Mao being so terrible and being this strong counterexample is what the reformers needed in order to create China's post-Mao growth. In the sense that if you to like really abandon communism and pursue pro-growth policies, you needed viscerally the Cultural Revolution as a counterexample, the Great Leap Forward, to say, no, we got to try something else.
Possible. Definitely possible because of all the people who are ruined by it. But I think there's another one. You should give the Taiwanese great credit. Taiwan did an after-action report. They're one of the 4 Asian tigers that went from a very poor country to an absolutely wealthy country. And I think it's around 1990-ish, where Taiwan is, I think the statistics are right, I'll try this. It's got 1/50th the population of the mainland. It's got 1/250th of the land mass of the mainland, and it has about 40% of the GNP. And if you're PRC mainland looking at this, how embarrassing. The losers of the war have won the peace and put you to shame for how incompetently brutal you are. And that's Taiwan's problem to this day, is that they are a rebuke to everything the Communist Party is.
Growing up, we call Taiwan 宝岛 Taiwan. That means a treasure island. You know, we hear about how beautiful it is. But we rarely hear about their democracy. We don't hear about their prosperity that much. I think a lot of Chinese people assumed that they are a lot richer than Taiwanese people. They are unaware of how well Taiwan has developed ever since the Nationalist Party lost the Civil War and went to Taiwan. That is because there is no transparency from the Chinese government.
There used to be this racist notion that, Han Chinese and democracy, incompatible, can't do that. Well, Taiwan has proven that wrong. And look at Taiwan. They have, what is it, their chip foundry? Incredible.
The ironic thing is we use that argument in our own system. You hear this argument a lot from Chinese officials. They're saying, you can't do democracy here. That's why you need the Communist Party. Democracy doesn't agree with us. We're too big for democracy. It's not in our blood. It's not our skill. Chinese people are not smart enough. That's their own sophistry to defend the existence of a totalitarian regime.
What I find disturbing about communism in comparison to, I mean, maybe even like especially Chinese communism, is if you, when Hitler is killing the Jews, he doesn't make them first say, listen, we were responsible for World War I, which he falsely claimed, and we renounce our Semitic ways or something. And with the Cultural Revolution, with Chinese communism, there's a very important aspect where the victim must participate in their own victimization. They must be the one to say, I'm guilty, in a way that didn't seem necessary in other kinds of regimes.
Hitler's just trying to annihilate people, so he didn't care what they're going to tell him. He's just going to kill them all. So that's just a complete... He's into destroying every last Jew there is, right? Plus gypsies and some other people. So that's a separate thing. China has a long tradition of education. I mean, what's Confucianism about? It's the scholars at the top, right? It's in Japan, it's the general, the shoguns at the top. In China, the soldiers at the bottom of the social pyramid. And it's all about educating people. And then the entire imperial system, how did you get mobility? And there was actually a way to mobility. It's take the imperial exams. And if you pass them and do well, you're off and running. So, and there's also a tradition of re-educating people. You could shoot everybody, you could. But that's not the Chinese tradition. The loads of people dying is a lot of it's starvation. So people like Deng Xiaoping, who, if he'd been in Russia, Stalin killed all the old Bolsheviks, right? There was no chance to come back, whereas the Chinese will put people in prison and try to re-educate them, and then you let them out afterwards. It's a tradition of educating people, different culture.
The professor used the word education. I think a better word would be manipulation. Education teaches you how to think, but indoctrination tells you what to think. And there's no one that does this better than the Communist Party. Truly, there isn't. This indoctrination starts when you're 6 years old. It's intense. It's so intense that it becomes part of you. And the CCP doesn't hide it. They use euphemism. They call it re-education. Here's a clip of a top CCP official bragging about how the government would re-educate Taiwanese people after they annexed the nation on television.
After the reunification, everyone in Taiwan need to make a pledge whether they acknowledge there is only one China and Taiwan is part of China.
And if they don't make that pledge, they're out.
Those who pledge for the one China policy, they are local.
The intention of the Chinese Communist Party was never to reform or to change or to adopt democracy. It was never about killing either. The end game was to rule.